Alright, you may be wondering why I posted this, because I already made a tier list video if you watched that, and that is because I believe my old one was kind of poo. Must have been on something making that, because many of my placements were simply wrong. So yet again, I will be redoing this from scratch and re-explaining all of these characters as best I can. I may leave out some details or get some details wrong, because the wiki isn't always correct. So feel free to correct me if you would like. Also feel free to comment whether or not you agree with this. Just don't be a dickhead about it, because it feels like people can't have simple debates in the comments anymore without getting angry. Especially in YouTube comment sections. As you may have seen from the length of this video, this is really long, so get ready to sit down, or unless you want to watch this video in segments, go for it and watch a little bit of it now, watch a little bit of it later, because we're going to be here for a minute. Anyway, for this list I'll be considering these facts. 1, how good is a DPS? If they're not solely a DPS, how well do they contribute to the team? 2, how good is their ease of use? Yes, I'm considering that, because most people that say, oh, well, technically at top conditions, this character is so good here. I'm not like that. I think that's really stupid, because you're not always getting the best conditions for each and every character. Being situational is not an advantage, really. So I'd really like to consider ease of use. 3, how well do they depend on upgrades? I think playing the character when they're not fully leveled is a big part of this game, and I think it's really good to consider both without and with. 4, I'm going to be going over appearance, and I know not many people cover this, and it doesn't seem significant, but being extremely obvious can sometimes destroy characters. Most of the time, or almost always, it really won't bump a character up or down. It'll just be a negative fact that I like to mention or think is pretty important to the character. And before we start, I just wanted to mention I did make a lot more categories, because there are just so many characters, and I really like to put into perspective which ones are better or which ones are worse. So I think this helps be a bit more specific where I think they land. And with that out of the way, we will go ahead and start. This is my 3rd or 4th time recording this bullshit, because one time I realized my mic wasn't recording and I was an hour in, and then the next time I just for some reason didn't hit record. And then there's so many times that I fucked this up, and it's honestly getting to me now. I think I might start losing my voice soon. I'm going to try and make this as good as I can. Hopefully y'all enjoy this. And let's get straight to it. So starting off, we have regular Citron. I'm going to put him in A. He's probably the most average Citron, and average does not mean bad, because Citron is very good. His primary is a constant stream of damage hit scan beam, dealing about 10 to 11 damage, I think. Probably 11 up close. And with his role, he is supposed to be the big tanky close quarters damage dealer, which he does that role very, very well. His damage drop off is very bad though, naturally, going to about 2. So his abilities are very solid, being the EM Peach, shutting down any opponent in front of you, only allowing them to move slightly. The ball form is extremely busted, giving him some of the best mobility in the game, and also solid, I don't remember the name of that certain ball attack ability, the rush or whatever, dealing 50 damage and also being able to hit multiple opponents is really good. Just a mini ultra tackle, really. And the shield is probably the most average ability he gets, because he's so big that regardless of if you're using the regular shield or the mood shield, you can still kind of hit around him if you shoot his feet, or if you shoot his head, or if you're even angled slightly to the side, you can still shoot him. That is a big Having a shield on top of 200 HP is really solid. I think he does play the tank role decently well. Some characters can just bypass that, like Soldier using ZPG. And with your hitbox being so big, you can get ZPG'd very easily. So I think that does bump him down a bit. But anyway, moving on to ease of use. The beam is a constant stream of damage, so it isn't actually that hard. But unfortunately, the beam itself is really, really thin. It can be easy to miss sometimes, so I think that is a bit, kind of bumps him down a little. But still, EM Peach slows people down incredibly. But still, you can just use EM Peach to slow people down so you can accurately hit the beam. So solid ease of use, pretty good character, and having extreme mobility as well makes him pretty easy. And he's not very dependent on upgrades. I'd say most important is really just the damage, because you want to kill your opponent as quickly as possible. So he has a solid overheat, you can still kill zombies with or without it. And HP, who wouldn't love some more HP? So he already has 200, so he's not too worried about that. So you don't really need that many upgrades on him, really just the damage. And lastly, appearance. He is a very bright orange, so that does bump him down a little. He's really obvious, not as much compared to his other variants because he doesn't glow, but still it's not really helping him. You can get spotted kind of easily, so that doesn't help him too much. But anyway, I think he's still a solid A tier character. Very good, does his job very well, and not much else to say, so A tier. For the Citron, I think he is also going to go A. I think he's slightly better than regular Citron, and I will explain why. So to start off, his primary deals less damage up close, dealing only 10, and goes down to 3, so he can do a little bit higher damage at range. Even though he has lower damage, being able to shut people down that easily is still phenomenal. Still a really, really good character. It's just as easy to use as regular Citron because he has a beam. He also is more dependent on upgrades than regular Citron, unfortunately, because he really does need that freeze upgrade, and only getting that at level 5 elite is not great. Without the freeze upgrade, I think he'd still be A tier, still solid, but just it really does bump him up quite a bit if he does have it. And lastly, appearance. I think it does really help him on Great White North, maybe not too much because he's so big. It does make him pretty obvious, but I think it helps a little bit, maybe not so much on other maps, but I don't think it's significant enough to bump him down or anything. So solid A tier. I'd say he's better than regular Citron though. And Electro Citron, I'm gonna put him A. Some people are diehard fans and be like, oh, he's the best character ever, he's like AS tier, he's like S broken. No. So starting off, this is not your average Citron because he no longer uses a hit scan beam. He has a semi-auto charging primary, dealing about 70 something damage, I think, up close. But the thing with Electro Citron as well is that his damage ranges are not great. His fully charged shot goes down to about 20 something, but at the same time, that does actually make him better than other Citrons at range. His fully charged shot also has a pretty massive AoE. And on top of that, having the electric gimmick to deal arc damage gives him a bit better grouping, so he can pick off people at range a little bit better. He also has one of the fastest times to kill in the class. His ease of use isn't as good though, because instead of a constant stream of damage, you shoot less bullets for a higher payout, so pretty much more risk and reward kinda. You really do have to land that fully charged shot, otherwise you're probably dead. So his ease of use is definitely worse than these other two, but still fairly good. Absolutely solid character. I wouldn't say the charge shot playstyle hinders Citron too badly. They don't really work together, they're just kind of there. So moving on to upgrades, he doesn't really depend on upgrades that much. I'd say one thing that he really does need is either ammo or reload, because with charge characters you suck up extra bullets for every charge level you go up, so he really does need that extra ammo or reload. But other than that, he's really not too dependent on it. It's pretty solid with or without. Definitely better with, but it's not too noticeable. So moving on, appearance. I'd say this helps him blend in on Moonbase C because everything kind of has a blue hue. But other than that, this actually makes Electro Citron stick out a lot. He's very, very obvious compared to most other variants since he's just glowing blue, but not too significant. That's just another negative with him. So I think with everything in mind, solid A tier character, really good. You could argue for him to be A+, but I think I'm going to keep him A. So moving on, Iron Citron, this is going to be pretty obvious, S tier. Absolutely phenomenal Citron. So starting with his primary, he deals 50 damage, going down to 15 at range. It is a semi-auto 1 bullet magazine size, so you do have to make your bullets count. People argue, I don't want to jump to this straight away because I want to have organization with this tier list and how I introduce these characters, but people say with upgrades, he's like, oh, he's like all the way down here, he's like actually butt crack, he's like big booty butt cheeks, but no. I did a video without upgrades on Iron Citron, and he still did fine. I got 60-something kills in a medium-length turf match. He's still fine. I mean, without upgrades, I'd say he's A+, I guess, at worst. And then S as soon as you get the first reload upgrade. And you get the first reload upgrade fairly early on, too, being, I think, advanced level 5. So he's still very solid. Amazing. One big selling point with him is that he is a legendary character, so he's got a legendary meter, giving him access to Iron Mode, where if you get 5 kills, you get a movement speed, ammo bonus, and also a massive damage reduction. And on top of Iron Citron being the second highest HP plant in the game with 250, that is insane. It feels pretty much impossible to kill him sometimes, especially if you're playing a lower HP zombie. You kind of just get run over by him. Well, the thing with Citron as well is that since he has the E and Peach, he's very good at securing kills, especially in one-on-one scenarios, so you can fill Iron Mode up pretty reliably. With that in mind, his ease of use is fairly easy, I'd say, and especially with his projectile being so fat, the hitbox is very generous, and I'm really surprised they gave him that big of a hitbox, because it's wow. And lastly, his appearance. I think he does stick out a bit because he's got this gray metal ball and then just this really bright orange sticking out, but at the same time, I don't think it's too much of a concern because Iron Citron has so much health. So I don't think it's too much of a concern. Solid S tier character, and I think he belongs up here. So moving on, we have Party Citron, a solid A+ Citron. Well, there's not too much to say about him because he's just regular Citron, but better. So the thing with all party time characters is that they are legendary characters, so then they get a meter, and his is the party time meter. Citron's very good at securing kills, so you can fill up that party meter pretty reliably, and he's easy to use because he has a hit scan beam that deals the same damage as regular Citron. And once you get party time, you get a slight damage reduction, insane movement speed, and 2 extra points to your beam, so his damage goes up from 11 to 13. For a Citron, the party time mode synergizes so unbelievably well with this class. Since you're always up in people's faces, the movement speed is always very good because it allows you to swerve around people, maybe make them miss a few bullets, and also escape or get into battle incredibly quickly. Pairing this with on top of Citron's Hyperball ability makes him pretty much the fastest plant in the game, being able to zip across the map almost instantly. This is just a phenomenal Citron. Once you get party time, it feels like you can kill pretty much anybody. Super easy to use. Since he's pretty much the same as regular Citron, he isn't too dependent on upgrades, does fine without, but they do definitely help. And appearance-wise, he kind of blends in on Zomburbia if you don't have all the bright cosmetics on like the goggles, but other than that, he's extremely obvious. I mean, this is probably the most obvious Citron ever. You are probably most prone to getting ZBG'd when you play this guy. And I think that's it. Not much else to say. Solid A tier. I don't really think there should be any arguing with this. Very good. And I think he deserves A+. So moving on, we have Toxic Citron. I think I'm going to put him B. You could argue B+, or no, you could argue B-, or maybe... I just don't think he should be anywhere near B+, because other characters that are going to go there are way better. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say B and not B-, simply because of his ability set. Starting off with his primary, he has a fully auto, slower fire rate primary that does big booty butt cheeks damage, only going to about 9, falling down to 2 at range, and also having stink cloud damage. So he can actually stack decent damage at range, and especially with extra toxic damage on top of that, he can pick people off pretty well. But that's not really what you want to do with Citron. This doesn't synergize very well at all. He has the slowest time to kill out of any of them. You end up relying on your abilities a lot more when it comes to him, and that's just pretty much what carries him. Upgrades really don't make too much of a difference with him, because his damage is not that good. You do get a ton of ammo, so you really don't need that upgrade anyway. You really just need the reload, and they're not really that important on him. It doesn't change too much. But anyway, moving on to the appearance. This guy is extremely obvious because he's a bright lime green, and no maps are really helping him blend in here. His DPS holds him back significantly, giving your opponent so much more time to kill you. It's just unbelievable. Super obvious. Yeah, I think he's just B tier. I don't know if I can put him any higher than that, and I honestly would consider putting him lower. I think he just sits here. So moving on to one of my favorite classes. We have Rose, the amazing lady herself. I'm going to put her A-. So starting off, her primary is an automatic, kind of slow firing, I'd say medium fire rate, 9 damage thistle as they call it, that has a homing ability, so you don't have to aim, your bullets automatically track your opponent. Isn't always the most reliable thing in the world because it can miss. Goes up to 10 with the damage upgrade, so it does fix that awkward damage range that she has. Her abilities are kind of mid. The time snare is definitely the worst because all it does is slow down your opponent and they can still just shoot you in the face and kill you instantly. The goat's pretty good because it completely stops them from attacking, so then you can kill them if they're low HP. Not a bad ability, and then the Arcane Enigma is pretty damn good, making you completely invulnerable for a certain period of time and also dealing decent damage. And if you want to play more support, Arcane Lotus is very good, being able to heal you and your teammates. But I think she does tend to fall off because 1, she only has 100 HP, and 2, she has a damage bug up close where if you are within, I think, a couple to a few meters, you will only deal 9 damage instead of 10. It's really weird, and I think that bumps her down quite a bit. So she's actually abysmal up close unless you have your goat or Arcane Enigma ability up. It doesn't complement her too well because most of these abilities like the time snare and the goat you can really only use up close, when Rose's purpose is pretty much a background DPS, or a support if you have the Arcane Lotus. You don't really want to be seen, and you just kind of hide out in the back and deal some damage, which these don't really help with at all. So moving on, ease of use, absolutely phenomenal, pretty easy to use. I'd say upgrades really affect her ease of use with the homing. And moving on to the upgrades, the most significant one that you'll get is definitely her homing, and you get it halfway through leveling the character at about advanced level 9, right before you get to elite. So I'd say that's the midway point. By that level, that's pretty much the most significant difference you'll see with Rose. The health upgrade is also very good on her too because she only has 100 HP. And I'd say it's your choice on whether or not you want ammo or reload. Both give about the same value, I guess. I guess I'm just going to include hitbox in the appearance description of the characters. But her hitbox is very small because she's super skinny. And on top of that, one bonus with her is that her jump height is really high. So it's very hard to hit a Rose, but with her actual, appearance, she kind of sticks out quite a bit because she's just got this very obvious purple cape, making it easier to see the green on her body, and having a very vibrant crimson head is, that kind of sticks out quite a bit. And with Rose, it is kind of important because, like I said, you do not want to be seen, you want to sit in the back, but still absolutely solid character, can deal a lot of damage with very little effort, and I think she gets A-. So we're going to be doing Druid Rose. I have shit on her quite a bit, but it's just for shits and giggles. She's not really that bad, but I think I'm just going to put her B. Starting with her primary. Deals, without the damage upgrade, 5, which is awful. Goes up to 6 with the damage upgrade. I mean, imagine being a toxic character that is so bad you need a damage upgrade, right? Poison isn't really too helpful because you're not looking for AoE scenarios on a Rose anyway. She's just single target. If the enemies are right next to each other, sure, you can deal a little bit of AoE damage, but that's not the main focus. Also forgot to mention that she has an incredibly fast fire rate. So along with that not very good damage, her bullet speed is actually butt cheeks. I mean, this is awful. It's so slow, and I've seen people try to say that this is an advantage when it is in fact not an advantage. The whole point is that you want to kill your opponent as quickly as possible so they can't hurt you, and she just can't do that. I'm not saying she's bad by any means, but that isn't always viable, because especially at long distance, your opponent can easily react and move out of the way. Pretty much the same ease of use as regular Rose. Appearance is actually a little bit better because she has a very flat, pale, green-orange look, so it does make it a bit easier to hide with her. The wand isn't helping too much since it's glowing and sticks out quite a bit, but I think she's a solid B. I don't think she does not compare to regular Rose whatsoever, so I think she's just gonna sit B. Not a bad character, but not too great either. She just sits here. So Fire Rose, this is gonna be our first bad character. You could argue C if you want. I guess I wouldn't disagree. Her primary is a charge shot, which I don't think works well with Rose. It deals 5 damage uncharged to 50 charged. Her bullet speed starts off really slow and speeds up the further the bullet goes. It's kind of weird. Fire would be good for a Rose. This would, I say if she had a fully automatic primary, the same as regular Rose, and did, I don't know, 7 damage, she'd be the same. She would definitely be the same tier as regular Rose, but because she just has this really slow firing charge attack playstyle, I think she's just gonna go down here. She's actually butt crack. Charge attacking does not work well with a Rose because with Rose you want to be constantly spam jumping, which you can't because you're charge attacking. It also takes up more ammo, and with that really slow bullet speed, it gives your opponent a ton of time to react and move out of the way. Because she's a charge attack character as well, she has way less ease of use, making her a bit more situational on where she should be using her charge attack. Honestly, in most cases, it's better to just spray with her regular attack and get as much burn damage as possible on as many people as possible. You'll probably end up getting more kills that way than her charge attack, which is a bit sad. She's kind of dependent on upgrades. I mean, just as like any other Rose, the homing is pretty good. Yeah, fire damage, yeah. And then also, this is the most obvious Rose out of all of them. The fact that you can't jump to avoid most of the bullets coming your way, and you also are the brightest Rose, that's just awful. I mean, this also bumps her down here as well. You just have a target on your back when you play Fire Rose. You stick out so badly, and the fact that you're not moving that much to avoid the bullets just means that you're prime and ready for the killing. This is just not a good Rose. You don't do that much damage. Her half charge shot is also really bad, only doing 15 damage. So I think she sits in D tier. Pretty bad character, if you ask me. You could argue C tier, but I think I'm going to keep her D. So moving on, we have Frost Rose. I'm going to put her in B+, or maybe B. I don't know. I'll put her in B+. So as with Fire Rose, she is a charge attacking Rose. That's kind of contradictory to her playstyle, but she's just a actually more successful charge character. So as with Fire Rose, her fully charged shot does 50 damage. Her middle charge shot goes to 33, which is way higher than Fire Rose, and has a really fast fire rate uncharged shot dealing 7 damage, which is pretty good. She can freeze people pretty quickly. Her gimmick does work really well with Rose because you have such low HP, freezing people is very valuable. And using her charge attack gives you a mount to your freeze, I guess, if you want to call it that. This is pretty much the imp killer. Can really pick off low HP enemies super well. The AoE on the fully charged shot is also massive. You can easily hit people behind corners. But that leads me to the next fact, is that I think she is just one of the most situational Roses, because one thing about her charge attack is that it doesn't get homing, which makes me kind of want to bump her down. I can't keep her in the same... And let me bump Toxic Citron down. I don't like them being in the same category as these Roses. Well, let me just do this. Oh, but I don't know if I like that. I guess I'll just keep it like this. Whatever. So the homing upgrade isn't too important on her. It does help, but you can get away without it. And she also does kind of depend on that freeze upgrade to slow down opponents and then spam them with your uncharged shots to finish them off. So I think being more situational, having less ease of use because she's a charge attack character, and also being dependent on upgrades just really does bump her down, in my opinion. She takes a lot more effort for a payout that might not be as good as regular, so I don't really see the point in putting her any higher. She's a very solid character, though. When she works really well. You just kind of need to be at least on an even playing field as your opponent. I didn't explain this very well, but the reason I say that you need to be at an even playing field is because since homing doesn't work well with her charge attack, you can't shoot at zombies that are above you as well as other Roses, so it would be better for you to be at a high vantage point, being able to nuke zombies from above, and rely much more on the AoE rather than just simply being able to aim at them. So I think that makes her a bit harder to use. And if not, you're at a pretty big disadvantage. So I think she's going to sit B+. She also, her appearance doesn't really matter because her fully charged shot has a really big bloom glow effect on it anyway. So she's really obvious. You also can't jump to avoid bullets either, so that bumps her down as well. So I think B+ is where she belongs. Pretty solid character, but I think she's just more situational and doesn't give the same amount of payout as Reg. So moving on, Party Rose, I think she's also going to go B tier. She is just regular Rose, but worse. The thing with Rose is that she's not really able to guarantee kills with her primary or any of her abilities, so party time does not work very well. And she gets a damage reduction from 9 to 8 without the damage upgrade, and then also gets a huge ammo reduction by, I think, 10. And the thing with regular Rose is that she pretty much barely works to be as good as she is. Going from 9 to 10 really does fix that awkward damage range she has, but meanwhile, Party Rose is just kind of stuck there. As with any other party characters, though, she gets the party time meter, which allows her to deal about 11 damage with the damage upgrade, get a movement speed bonus and a slight damage reduction, which is nice, but at the same time, when you're in party time, you get that really big light on the center of your character, and Rose really does not want that, because like I said, Rose is a character that you want to sit in the back and do as much damage as possible without being seen, because you have pretty much no health. And this just makes her even more obvious. The speed boost also makes her more obvious because you're just zipping around everywhere. It does make it harder to hit though, so I guess that does help. But not being able to guarantee kills and actually get party time is just not worth it. You really don't end up getting party time that much. But this is just Rose, but a little bit harder. So I think it deserves B. She can do very good. She can deal some really good damage with the damage upgrade, but she definitely is limited by having lower DPS, so I'm going to put her in B+. And moving on, we have the beauty herself. We have one of the best designed Rose in the game. We have Neck Rose, obviously S tier. She's technically a charged character, but only has one charge level, which gives her access to the ability Jinx, where she will apply, I think, a 50 to 75% damage bonus on your opponent. To normally play her, you charge her first level, which is very quick, shoot that, deals 15 damage, applies the Jinx ability, and then you spam with a really fast fire rate. Without the Jinx ability, it's only 7, which is not very good. It's the same as Frost Rose, but goes up to 13 with the Jinx bonus. So she is the highest DPS Rose out of any in the class. Extremely high damage, can kill super quickly. And on top of this, the Jinx ability can not only buff your damage, but other players as well. So she's pretty much the best support in this game. Being able to buff all the OP plants in this game to even bigger heights, which is crazy. Ease of use is not the same as regular Rose. It's really worse because you're depending on that first charge shot way too much. And if you're going against a scientist, you really get shut down because they can just get rid of that status effect. But still absolutely phenomenal. Can support any teammates. Ease of use is a little bit worse, but still pretty good. Pretty much depends on upgrades, the same as regular Rose. And appearance, she can stick out a lot, especially with the wand charge effect being a lot bigger. But on Zumburbia with a purple hue, she does fit in a bit better. Other than that, she's kind of obvious, but still solid OP character. Jinx abilities, great. And I think she deserves S tier. So moving on to the corns. We have regular corn. He's going to go S tier. I think this goes without saying. He's just phenomenal, dealing about 9 damage up close, only going to about 7.5 at range. So he's good at all ranges, being able to laser people super fast. His primary also has, I think, 40 bullets, and that is more than enough to kill a 125 HP zombie, which is majority of zombies in this game. Actually, 2 times over in 1 mag is phenomenal. His ability set is also arguably the best in the game, because having 2 insta-kills, one that you can just casually throw in whatever, the bigger, better, butter, and kill multiple people with a massive AoE all at once. Having Husk Hop, which can be used as a mobility or attacking ability, and can absolutely shred mechs, and easily shred regular zombies. And then we have Shuck Shot, which is just like a worse CPG, but still an insta-kill, so it's still very good. Not so good at long range, but can deal exceptionally high damage up close and at mid-range. So I think easy S tier. He also has 150 HP. Easy S tier, really easy to use, not too dependent on upgrades. Without upgrades, he's still easy S tier. I'd say he's probably like S+. Very broken character, super consistent, and with his appearance, he also has a very flat color scheme, just being a regular green and yellow, so he's a little bit obvious, but he can blend in decently well. His head's also really skinny, so it's kind of hard to hit headshots with him. Absolutely busted character, really good survivability, really good damage, really good abilities, really good everything. Absolutely solid. So moving on, barbecue corn. This goes without saying. I think he's going to go B, or maybe B+. Because his ability set being so broken, I don't know if I want to put him in the same tier as regular Citron. I mean, Toxic. I might bump Toxic Citron down. I don't know. So with regular corn, he used to be super OP because I think when the game first came out, his primary did 7 damage on top of fire damage, when now it is 5 at most, and then it goes down to 3 at range. So really garbage DPS. His primary is awful, and on top of that, a fire gimmick does not work well with corn because fire is meant to be a background DPS, deal damage over time, when with corn, you're supposed to be up in people's faces, killing them as quickly as possible, and on top of the lowest DPS out of any corn, this is just not worth it at all. Being up close is honestly more dangerous with barbecue corn because you just don't have a reliable primary. And I think he has a little bit lowered ammo. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like looking it up on the wiki because it's probably going to be wrong or just not be there anyway. Ease of use is pretty much the same as regular corn. Same primary, just worse. Abilities are carrying him, still has 150 HP. He's a bit more dependent on upgrades as well because he desperately needs that fire damage to deal as much damage as possible. But other than that, I guess he doesn't really need them. His appearance also makes him stick out more with the reflective aluminum that he's got on. So I think that just puts him B or B+. I think B is a bit too harsh. I might put him in B+ because his ability set's just way too broken. So I think he'll sit here for now. If I feel like changing it later, I will. But he's going to go here. So now we have Mob Cobb. I think I'm going to put him in A-. Comparing him to regular corn, he is fairly similar, except he just gets a piercing gimmick for way less fire rate, but his damage actually goes up to 10 up close, and then I think goes down to about 8 at range. So he does end up having a less time to kill, and grouping isn't really favored in this game, so that doesn't help that much. It's just a weaker primary compared to regular corn, but he still has the same broken ability set, so very solid character. Not much else to say. So I think he sits A-. Pops Corn, I think he's going to go A. So comparing him to regular corn, he is a burst character, which means his ease of use is definitely worse. You're shooting less, so your bullets are less valuable, meaning your aim has to be better. Up close, he's actually slightly better than regular corn. Only slightly, like only a little bit. If not, they pretty much do the same damage. Dealing about 10 or 11, or I think around there. But between mid to far range, he falls off significantly because his damage goes down to about 7. I mean, given his damage ranges are very far, but at the end of the day, dealing 7 the same as regular corn at far range and you shoot less means you just deal less damage at range. So I think that bumps him down a bit, and I think it puts him in A or A+. You could argue either one. I really wouldn't disagree with either of these, but I think I'm just going to keep him A. If I feel like moving it, I will, but very solid character. I like playing him. His appearance also isn't helping either because he's a very bright white, so you're very easily targeted with him. I guess there's just nothing else to say. Solid A-tier character. Moving on, we have Party Corn. Oh, I feel like this one's going to be pretty obvious, but yeah, he's going to be our first broken character. Some people might argue S or put these two on the same level. Regular corn is already so broken that just a 1 damage nerf and a little bit less ammo really doesn't nerf him at all. He can still easily kill 125 HP enemy, and with bigger, better butter, you can just throw that ability in constantly and easily get free kills to fill up your party time meter. And of course, all of his other abilities can get you free kills as well. So getting party time is not hard at all. And on top of this, party time synergizes with the corn playstyle incredibly well. You want to be in front of people's faces all the time. The movement speed helps you get in really quickly. Since he's so skinny, it is kind of hard to hit him sometimes, so that definitely helps. And his primary goes up to I think about 11 damage per bullet, so you can just rip through anyone in front of you. I'd say on the SS he'd probably be on like SS minus because he's not as consistent since he does need the party time to be at his full potential. Party corn, well, regular corn is definitely more consistent than party, but party just has heights that somehow corn just falls a little bit behind, so I think he should just be broken. Moving on, we have Commando Corn. I think I'm just going to put him in B. There's really just no reason to play Commando Corn. He has a much slower automatic fire rate, dealing about 15 damage. I don't know the minimum damage. And he has a really useless AoE gimmick as well, dealing about 1 or 2 damage. And there have been so many scenarios where I've just taken random damage, and then I check my HP going from 125 to 124, and then I already know who I'm being shot at by, because who else has AoE that bad? His ability set is largely what carries him, and considering he is a legendary, he can get the full commando ability, which gives him... Oh, I forgot to mention that many of the party time and legendary meters do regen HP. With full commando, he gains 30 more bullets, going from 20 to 50, which is really, really high. He does 25% more damage, moves 50% faster, and has a 25 damage resistance. So all of that is really good, but you really just don't have a primary to get you there. You could argue he wants to be A if you're thinking max potential, but I don't know. He's just not consistent. He doesn't do enough damage. The wiki says his reload is not that great either, but I don't remember if it is, and I can't test it either because I don't have him on PC. But I think he goes here or here. You can argue whichever, sure. But I think he goes B+. So moving on to the Peashooters. Oh yeah. Let's go regular Peashooter. I think he's going to go... I'm going to put him A. Okay, regular Peashooter is definitely better than Reg Citron. I don't know if I might keep him A+. I think I'll keep him A+, sure. So with regular Peashooter, he is a slow fire rate, absolutely massive damage dealer, so your bullets are definitely really valuable. You don't want to be missing with him because his impact damage deals bonus damage and does 35 without the damage upgrade and goes up to 38 with the damage upgrade, which I don't think it makes too much of a difference, but that is still extremely high. He also has a pretty generous AoE dealing 10 damage, which that shouldn't be your main source of damage, but can help beginner players pretty well. As with most Peashooters, his reload is not that good. I think about 2.5 seconds, which is really long. So reload upgrade is definitely needed. I don't think he needs many other upgrades, because without them, he's still pretty solid. His ease of use is just all right, because with regular Peashooter, you do seriously need to land your shots. So I think this sits him at A+. He has, along with that astronomical 38 damage, he has one of the best ability sets in the game. And also, he's really tiny. Peashooter is super tiny. His head hitbox is kind of what takes up the majority of the hitbox, so it is easy to get headshots on him. But he is super, super tiny. I don't know why he's so tiny. They need to make him bigger. And blends in pretty well because he's got a really flat green color palette. He doesn't stick out too much. And his bullets also don't glow or anything like that. So pretty solid character. Amazing. I'd say he's A tier. Fire P. I'm going to put him A-. the ability set is really, really what carries him. I'd say he's barely an A minus because his primary goes from 35 regular peashooter to 25. Most elemental variants also have the same damage, so this is going to be a common theme here. But the thing that really gets Fire P back up here to A minus is that he makes up for some of the damage loss with fire. But the thing is, this also makes him more viable at range, because what you could do is slow chip damage by burning some opponent and then run in and kill them. So he's a bit more versatile, being able to deal a bit more damage at range, but dealing less damage up close. And 25 is also just barely good enough, because you can, for any enemy that is over 100 HP, which is almost every zombie, I mean, scientists with health upgrades get 110, you would really need to hit them 5 times, maybe 4 if you get enough burn damage as well. My whole point with that statement was that he takes more hits to kill than regular peashooter, but that is assuming you go directly at the opponent from full HP, when if you play him as best you can, dealing some damage at range and then going in after they take burn damage, that is really the most effective way to play him and be able to kill zombies as quickly as possible without taking any damage yourself. But his ability set is just so busted, with the hyper being able to have extremely good mobility. You really don't need P-Gatling with Fire P, but you can use it if you want. So this is more of a kind of chip damage, aggressive peashooter, I guess. Ability set just keeps him here. Yeah, his ease of use is kind of the same, I guess. Maybe a little bit better than regular peashooter, since you can just burn them from far range. But moving on, I think for his appearance, this is the most obvious peashooter in the game. You absolutely cannot hide with Fire P, and I think that bumps him down quite a lot. So I think I'm just going to keep him A minus. Not the greatest peashooter, but versatility at range. Burn damage does make up for some of the damage lost, and not as good as regular peashooter because he's bald. So moving on, Ice P. I think he's going to go B+. And the reason I think this is because Ice P just doesn't make up for the damage loss from regular, or even compared to Fire P. Ice also just does not complement the peashooter playstyle too well. The fact that you're only dealing 25 and just relying on a freeze is By the time you get the freeze, most enemies that are 125 HP are already really low anyway, so it just doesn't really help that much. I'd say with the freeze it gets a lot better, and he can shut down high HP enemies very, very well. His damage is just kind of butt cheeks compared to the rest of them. Ease of use is kind of the same. I think one big thing with Ice P is that he has literally no range at all. He has nothing actually backing him up, unlike Fire P, where Fire P can deal fire damage at range and then push in later. With Ice P, you really just need to be up close to actually take full advantage of the freeze. So I think that bumps him down quite a bit. Ease of use is alright, just relegated to close to mid-range. Appearance-wise, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. This doesn't really help, but that's not really helping him that much, so I think I'm just going to keep him in B. Definitely not a great peashooter, but because he's a peashooter, he's good. So B tier, B+. Toxic P. One of the best designed peashooters, obviously. I think is going to go in A-, because similar to Fire P, he makes up for some of that damage loss with the toxic effect. But with Toxic P, he has the most versatility out of any in the class, having an absolutely massive AoE, so you can deal huge crowd control, even at range, and this is pretty much the most beginner-friendly peashooter in the game. Ease of use is really up there. Damage isn't too great, but he's still fairly consistent, being able to always deal some form of damage, even if your aim is kind of cheeks. So I think he sits A-. Not really too much to say about him. He needs the same upgrades as regular peashooter because his reload is really long. But other than that, he works well without them. His appearance isn't helping too much though, because he is kind of a glowing green, but the mask does cover some of that up. So he blends in a little bit better, but I think he's A-. Pretty solid peashooter. Moving on to Commando P. I want to put him in B. Don't be mad at me. I got my first ever hate comment, actually, because of this opinion, on my Commando P YouTube short. If you want to go see it, it's honestly kind of funny. I'm just that popular, guys. I'm getting haters left and right. So first, his primary is okay. Up close, it deals about 12 damage at most, and then goes down to 6 at far range. But the thing is, it's not even far range that it hits 6. It's just mid range it hits 6. So his damage ranges are incredibly awful. as soon as you get about 5, 6, 7, 8 meters away from him, his damage already starts dropping. So that is just really, really bad. He is strictly, I wouldn't say strictly, but mostly you need to be up close to take full advantage of his damage. And not only that, his projectiles are extremely tiny, so they are really, really, really easy to miss. His damage is just not that reliable. And at range, he just doesn't have that option. I don't think his reload's too great either. I think it's about the same as regular Peashooters, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think he's just really situational and does not have the versatility as other Peashooters, so he just gets bumped down quite a bit. I'd say he's probably on the same level as Ice P, if not a little bit better. He just does more damage up close. He's also pretty accurate as well. I don't know if he's dead accurate, but he's pretty accurate. And his color palette is pretty much the same as regular Peashooter, mostly a flat green, and he's really tiny, so it's kind of easy to blend in. He just really falls behind as a Peashooter, so I think he's gonna go B+. Moving on, we have Agent P. Should be pretty obvious. Boom. SS broken. His gimmick is where he deals double damage on headshot, and up close he will deal double 15, which means he does 30 damage per headshot. Fairly fast fire rate. It's a semi-auto with 12 rounds, I think 10 and then 12 with the upgrade. And his reload is naturally faster as well, but the downside is supposed to be that he gets less HP. I think he only has 100 HP, but with damage that high, you can usually kill enemies before they kill you anyway. I think his ranges aren't too bad either, being extremely good up close, pretty good mid-range, and then at far range he can do some chip damage. And his damage is just so high that you don't even need to use P Gatling on Agent P. It's pretty much useless, which I think says a lot about how broken he is. Dealing that much damage and also dealing 33 damage with the damage upgrade. I don't know if I mentioned that. This just makes him way too OP. I don't know what they were thinking making him a rare character. I mean, he's pretty much a legendary. Absolutely phenomenal character and goes into the SS tier without any doubt. So Loppy, people really disagree with this, but I'm going to put him S tier. That is mainly because I'm considering ease of use, but I'll get to that in a minute. So starting with his primary, without a damage upgrade, he'll only deal 24 damage per bullet. And since Loppy is supposed to be a 6-shooter, he has 6 bullets, and as you can imagine, 24 times 5 is only 120 damage, even though you hit almost every bullet, and that means you need to hit all 6 bullets, 5 headshots, and 1 body just to kill someone, which is dead accurate aim. Easily the highest skill ceiling out of any Peashooter. Ease of use is not there whatsoever. Definitely the risk and reward Peashooter. The main pro with him is that he has the fastest times to kill out of any Peashooter, but I would say also that playing him with no upgrades is really not a fun experience, since you have to hit all 6 bullets just to get 1 kill. Leveling him up is very difficult. Once you get the damage upgrade though, to hit 25 damage per headshot, that's not really that bad, which means you can hit 5 headshots and then miss at least 1 bullet, so it's a lot more generous. But still, playing him from level 1 to actually leveling up for that damage upgrade, that is just really bad. I think his reload's his reload's actually better as well. You can deal decent damage from far range as well. Far range is really hard to use him though, because he does have recoil on that. Oh. I'd say far range is not very good on him because his first bullet does have a little bit of recoil, so you end up missing some of the shots, but can still deal, I think, 14 damage per bullet, or 15 maybe, so that's actually pretty good. I'm just gonna put him in SS, but imagine him on like the lowest possible SS, or I don't really know. I'd keep him S or SS. I'll bump it down later if I want to, but I'll keep him here. Even though he's so difficult to play, really solid Peashooter, can get you kills almost instantly. Oh, he's also really easy to see with the cosmetics and stuff, with the hat and the hair and whatever. And with how close quarters you are, appearance doesn't really matter. You're usually going to get spotted anyway. So moving on, we have Plasma P. I think he is obviously here. Unlike any other charged character, he is not affected by any of the negatives, where he can jump, and also doesn't take additional bullets when shooting charged shots. His charged shots also are on the way higher end, dealing about 80 something damage, and at far range this also only drops down to 66, which is on the higher end for charged characters. Has a really fast spammable primary of uncharged shots that deal 22 damage per, and also have a little bit of AoE. So this is probably the best ease of use Peashooter out of all of them. I mean, I'd say easier than Electro P, because even if you do miss that first shot, being able to spam shoot 22 damage is still incredibly high. So I think that does make him extremely good. And if anything, I'd say Agent P I would say is the best. And then I'd honestly say just because of ease of use, and Plasma P is not really that far behind in time to kill, I'd say they're kind of even at being the best pea shooter. I think his ammo is also similar to a regular pea shooter in that he has 10 bullets without the ammo upgrade and then 12 with. So he's got a decent sized mag. He's very versatile because he can be used to nuke people at range. And also if you miss your fully charged shot, you have a huge after explosion that deals 15 on the first hit and then 30 for the explosion. So this is about as no skill as it gets. His versatility being used for people around corners, just massive AoE group control. I mean, oh my god, this is one of the most versatile pea shooters in the game. Absolutely broken. I for some reason forgot to mention this, but upgrades do help him quite a bit, but at the same time, he works just as well without. This is an absolutely broken character. Appearance doesn't really matter. Yeah, it kind of does. He is fairly obvious. It probably gets you killed more often than not compared to some other pea shooters. So I think he's broken. Oh. I don't know if I really... Oh. I don't like this thing. Okay, we're gonna put him B. P is just shit. And many of you may know this by now, but Rock P is nerfed in pretty much every way besides HP, and that's pretty much his gimmick, it's just to get extra HP, but I don't know why he's nerfed so badly in every other category. So his damage is pretty bad, I think around 20 something. Alright, well, I've had to go through and re-explain all this because I just kind of forgot how Rock P worked. So to start off, his damage is 20 up close and goes down to 10 at range. He does additional damage when you do impact damage, so it goes up from 20 to 32 and 10 to 22, which doesn't sound bad, but his damage ranges are very bad. The damage falls off very, very quickly, and so does the AoE, which is strange. The further from the center of impact, the less damage. And I'm not really sure why he has this and other pea shooters don't. It's just a bit weird. And overall, I don't think this gimmick is helping too much since you only gain 25 more HP. You look at other variants like Metal Pedal and she gains so much more. So I essentially think he's gotten more cons than pros, since 1, he's slower, 2, he has less ammo, and 3, he just generally does less damage because of his ranges. He isn't necessarily dependent on upgrades, but they definitely are helpful. You would generally go for health, ammo, and damage, since he already has a really fast reload. That's kind of the only plus. I made him really seem way worse in the video, but he's not as bad as I was making him out to be. And lastly, his appearance. So I think he's actually got a pretty good appearance, being a solidified stain. The solid brown does help him blend in a lot more. And I think that's about it. I judged him way too harshly in the actual video. I'm just going to cut all that out and replace it with this. So I think he's B+. So I think I'm just going to keep him B. His ability set is obviously carrying him. Moving on to the final pea shooter, we have Electro P. I don't know where I want to put him. I might keep him. Having all of these pea shooters up here looks really weird. I don't know if I want to keep him up here, but I'll go ahead and talk about his kit now, and then maybe I can figure out where to put him after. So to start off with his primary, he is the one and only self-detonation pea shooter, where he can detonate his own bullets at whatever distance the user pleases. He's best to close to mid-range, between that area there. The big thing with him is that his self-detonation creates an absolutely massive AoE, dealing 27 damage per, which isn't really that much, but given the fact that the AoE is so big, his ease of use is phenomenal. I mean, I guess I would say that the ease of use is comparable to Plasma P, if not better. Obviously, Electro P's time to kill is a lot lower, especially out of these 4 here, Electro P is the lowest. Also only has 8 bullets. Reload is incredibly fast. I guess there's not much else to say. The impact damage is the exact same as regular pea shooter, which is really weird. So if you do actually end up hitting your opponent directly by accident, it's just even more bonus damage for you. Since the AoE is really big, this is pretty much the crowd control pea shooter. If you're being 2v1'd, just turn on hyper and then just start shooting and you will kill both of them very quickly. And I think self-detonation actually complements the pea shooter playstyle very well, since you're in people's faces all the time. So absolutely solid pea shooter. I think he's broken. Some people are probably going to argue that Electro P shouldn't be that high, but I'm going to keep him here. Oh god. Okay. We're moving on to the chompers. Okay, well, I am going to make this really quick. Chompers aren't very great, but there are ones that are definitely better than others, and I didn't rate them very well in the last video, so I'm going to do as best I can for this one. So regular chomper is going to go D tier. One of the best chompers, really high HP and does decent 25 damage. You can also spam it pretty quickly, so not bad. Gets even better with the damage upgrade. There's not much else to say about his damage because he's just got a bite, that's it. He's only good at close range. The entire point with Chomper is that you're supposed to swallow to kill zombies, which this isn't entirely the best gimmick because the drawback is you have to sit there and digest the zombies for a few seconds. Your movement speed becomes a lot worse, and that can cause you to die more than likely every time that you do end up swallowing a zombie. Most chompers aren't really too dependent on upgrades unless it involves digestion, so I'm not going to cover too much about that either. But usually with bites, or if some sprays offer damage upgrades, those are always helpful. Those are usually going to be your best, as well as digestion upgrades. With Chomper, he is very easy to use because there's just not much to him. It's just either insta-killing people or killing them with a bite. His abilities definitely do help his gimmick though, allowing him to dominate up close. But if up close is your only option, then it's just not good in general. Shot cannon is more often than not most Chompers' only form of long range damage, and even then it does fail to kill zombies like All-Stars and Super Brainz because I think it only deals 100 damage at most. Some abilities like the Vamp Weed are pretty good, and I think synergize with them very well, but at the end of the day, none of them are long range, so Chomper is pretty bad. And appearance, he sticks out because he's a very bright purple. Of course, on Zomburbia, that helps him blend in a bit more, maybe not so much on other maps. But he's not really that good at hiding, and you really do want to hide because you kind of have to sneak around the map half the time just to get a kill. But with that being said, regular Chomper is actually one of the better Chompers. A pretty consistent Chomper, that's it. He just has higher health and decent damage. Yeah, but Chomper is just a bad class in general. I think we can all agree Chomper is the worst class in the game. So there's not going to be many high-ranking Chompers here. Fire Chomper is definitely worse. I don't think Chomper really depends on upgrades that much. I mean, pretty much every Chomper wants digestion, so yeah, sure. And I think he's a pretty solid Chomper, so I'm going to put him in D. Fire Chomper is just a straight up nerf. His spray just doesn't do as much damage compared to a spam 25 bite. It only does 8 with a tiny bit of extra fire damage. It does give him a bit more AoE because, you can spray multiple people in front of you, but who really cares about that? With Chomper, you want to be in one-on-one scenarios anyway. He just does less damage. Fire Chomper isn't really that bad. It's better than most Chompers, but it's just a straight up nerf. Fire really isn't that helpful either because with Chomper, you want to kill people instantly instead of having damage over time. So this isn't very helpful. I'm just going to put him in E. He's also extremely bright. This is an extremely obvious Chomper. And with Chomper, you want to stay hidden for as long as you can before you kill people or before you sneak up on them. And this is just not helping. Hot Rod. I might put him in E or D because people just seem to lightly brush over the fact that he has abysmally low HP for a Chomper. On top of this, you desperately need digestion upgrades to take advantage of his gimmick. So I think I'm going to put him in E. I think he does about the same damage as regular Chomper as well. You could argue to put him in D because it is a pretty good gimmick. So I think I'm gonna keep him here. If y'all have any other opinions, let me know in the comments. Okay, I think his Power Chomper. Absolutely solid Chomper. His spray does a ton of damage, dealing 10 per. So just flat out DPS spray in comparison to Fire Chomper's damage over time spray. This is just straight up better in every way. This is probably your best bet when it comes to dealing AoE spray damage as well with the electric arcing effect. So, I mean, he really can't take it too well advantage of it because he doesn't have any range, but still, I mean, it's something, I guess. There's not much else to say. He just does really high spray damage, so yeah, I think he goes D tier. Count Chompula? I think I'm gonna put him in D. Just hear me out. Count Chompula with the Vamp Weed ability makes him kind of unkillable. Even though he has 25 less HP being only 150, he does the same damage as regular Chomper, I believe. And if you have a digestion upgrade, it can make him pretty good because you can heal with the Vamp Weed, then swallow them, and then also heal again. So it makes you really good at getting insta-kills and actually surviving each of them. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to keep him here. Let me bump up Fire Rose. She shouldn't be down here. I think I'm just going to keep her C. So moving on. Toxic Chomper. This is easily one of the worst Chompers. The spray is just not strong enough. His spray also does 8 damage, but I don't think the toxic damage really compensates for the damage loss. So this is just one of the weakest sprays in the game. To help put this in perspective, this is only 1 more damage than Captain Squawk's spray, so it's really bad. With the toxic element does not really save you from the damage loss of regular Chomper. Dealing 25 per bite, you just can't catch up to that, and this just isn't helpful at all. This is just straight up damage nerf, not good. I just want to clarify, all these Chompers are actually... So Armor Chomper, I think he's solid. People have very mixed opinions about him, but dealing 50 damage per bite, I believe, is extremely high. He really can't take advantage of many of the abilities because he's so slow, but having that much more HP, dealing that much damage, I don't think we can really ignore that. You can argue for him to be higher or lower. I honestly wouldn't disagree. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep Armor Chomper in D tier. You could keep him E if you want. Feel free to argue about it in the or debate about it in the comments. Let's not argue now. Chomp Thing, yeah, he's going here. Absolutely awful gimmick. Lowered HP and a really awful spray for a no. I think we can all agree this is like one of the worst plans in the game. Moving on, Yeti Chomper. I'm not exactly sure how I managed to screw this ranking up so poorly, but I put him way further down when he should have been. So looking at his primary, he is very different from my regular Chomper, and he actually shoots a projectile. Up close, directly in front of you, it'll deal about 35 damage, going down to, I believe, 15, 18, 10 or something. I don't know. His damage ranges are very strange. But on top of that, he also has a small AoE dealing 10 damage, which I don't know if dealing AoE damage gives the same amount of points to your freeze as a direct hit, but either way, you can still build up the freeze pretty consistently, even though your damage isn't exactly consistent, and shut down people pretty well. But this also means, since you're slowing people down, then it has perfect synergy with the Chomp Cannon ability, and since it's a slow charge-up attack as well as a slow projectile, slowing people down is perfect for it. You can actually land it. So out of any Chomper, this is one of the best ones at picking off people one by one, and he is a very, very solid character, but I have to say, he is extraordinarily dependent on upgrades. You really do need the freeze to be able to survive half the fights that you're in. Since his damage is so inconsistent, if you don't freeze them immediately, it's kind of RNG if you'll survive, really. By this, I mean pretty much every bullet you shoot will deal different damage, since his damage drop-off happens very quickly. But just having access to range makes him such a phenomenal Chomper, and I think he should probably go C or B-. He is very, very, very good, and I don't think we should overlook that. And y'all may be wondering why I'm ranking him so highly compared to the other Chompers, but he just has range. That is simply my reasoning. He has range, very solid. He's still awkward to use, and he's a Chomper, so he's got to go a bit down, but still not a bad character. He won't actually be in the proper tier for, I think, most or rest of the video, and I'm going to have to redo the outro because some of them aren't in proper spots, so just ignore that and imagine he is... I'm going to put him B-. Okay, Disco Chomper. I'm going to put him here because Disco Chomper is just regular Chomper, but he does slightly more damage and for a little bit less fire rate, I guess. There's not really many differences between him and regular, but he just has Disco Fever, which you can never get because you have to swallow, I think, was it 3 or 5 people? The Disco Fever ability is kind of awkward with Chomper because it seems like it would help, but not really, because one, you can never get it. You usually get 1 kill and die with Chomper, and also the high movement speed, and I'm pretty sure he gets a higher bite damage, is good, but since you're moving around so much and how finicky the red swallow symbol is on people's backs, you're more likely to set that off more than ever with how quick you are, so half the time you just end up swallowing people and then wasting time in Disco Fever instead of just getting regular bite kills, so just doesn't really help too much. It is good, but if you get it, it's like a personal achievement, really. That's about as good as it gets. Other than that, he's really just an alternative to regular Chomper. Okay, and last but not least in the Chompers, we are going to put these two here. We'll put them here, B+. I think Twilight's a little bit better because he can zip across the entire map on 1 warp, but these are pretty much similar characters. These are phenomenal Chompers. They don't really depend on upgrades. The thing is as well, they don't really depend on upgrades that much. It's really just damage and HP that you need to prioritize. Twilight Chomper is a bit different from regular Chompers because he has 25 less HP, but gets the warp, which goes across the entire map, and also does naturally higher damage as well, going up to 35, which is really high, and the thing is, that's without damage upgrades. His bites aren't as fast, but still very solid, super high damage. He also has a faster speed. Moving on to Unicorn Chomper. Unicorn may prefer a bit of digestion because the damage isn't as good, only being the same as regular Chomper, so you might end up swallowing more, but both are still fantastic. Being able to zip across Twilight being able to zip across the entire map, and then Unicorn being able to navigate through small spaces incredibly quickly is very nice. These are both solid Chompers and can do the role as Chomper way better than any other. These Chompers are pretty good. Other than these two, you're pretty much wasting a team slot. because these guys are just a waste. You have no range, so you're not helping at all. It takes way too long to get kills with any other regular chomper besides these two. So I will be dead set on that fact. If you are not playing Twilight or Unicorn, you're not really helping the team that much. All right, we are back. It's the next day. So I'm just going to go ahead and get straight to it. Next we have Sunflower. Oh, what is going on? I think she is going to go A tier, very solid character. First we'll look at her primary, which is a 50 round mag and 60 with the upgrade, dealing 12 damage up close and 10 damage at far range with the damage upgrade. Which, as you could imagine, if you did the math, you can kill multiple 125 HP zombies in just one magazine. I'm very surprised they gave this to a support class, and her supporting abilities are actually pretty solid. First, she has the heal beam, which I think heals every half a second for 2 HP. Next, we have the sunbeam or solar flare, whichever one you prefer. I'd say solar flare is a little bit better because you can kill people quicker. Sunbeam, I think, deals about 8 damage to the head. Usually, you're going to be using this at far range, so I think at farthest it goes down to about 8. And then we have Solar Flare, which does even more damage, but has less ammo, so I think it's about 12 to the head, and then up close is about 14, so absolutely massive damage. And next we have the Heal Flower, which is actually a pretty solid ability. The regular Heal Flower just heals people in bursts of health, I think about 15 health in total. I'm honestly not sure, the wiki won't tell me. But it heals a very solid amount in bursts. The Dark Flower is a pretty garbage ability because you really want to be healing, not dealing damage. And the Rainbow Flower is just another alternative. They're pretty much about the same ability. This one is just giving out a constant stream of HP rather than just in bursts. The Heal Flower can also be used defensively to block certain attacks and eat hits for you. So if you ever need to defend yourself, solid defensive ability. Also, since she's a healer, she can revive people very quickly, and she can be an absolute game changer in certain game modes, assuming the person that is playing her knows how to play Sunflower correctly. So ease of use, honestly, I'd say she's pretty good. Pretty easy. With how many bullets you have, you can kind of just spray and pray, but that being said, her bullets are not very big. The hitbox on them is pretty small. She doesn't depend on upgrades, which is very nice, dealing absolutely solid damage with or without. Her abilities are really what the main focus of Sunflower is, so she's still absolutely solid with or without. Appearance, since she's a bright yellow, it does make her a bit obvious, but she's not glowing, so it isn't the worst thing in the world. I think she's a very solid character. I think she's going to go A tier. Very good. Very, very, very good for a healer. So Fireflower, I think she is going to go B+. So she's kind of a side grade, but compared to regular Sunflower, she's been nerfed kind of heavily. Not so much a side grade, more so a nerf. So compared to regular Sunflower, Fireflower's damage is a lot worse, dealing only about 9 up close, and then going down to 6, I think, at body, at long range, which is much, much lower than regular Sunflower. And her ammo is reduced from, I think, 50 to 30, which that is severe. That is a severely low amount. I guess they wanted to limit how much she can spray. Her fire, and moving on to the next point, she is a fire character. So with this Sunflower, you sit in the back and pick off enemies with some fire damage. You just spray, burn everybody, and deal some chip damage. So in terms of ease of use compared to regular Sunflower, she is easier to use. I don't think her damage potential is nearly as high because she has such lowered ammo and damage. But if you're more of a sit in the back kind of Sunflower player, honestly, she's pretty solid. I demonstrated in my Fireflower video that with her pretty fast bullet speed and good enough ammo, you can spray quite a bit, get a lot of burn damage on people, and get some decent kills. So she is easier to play, and unfortunately, she is a lot more dependent on upgrades than regular Sunflower because she really does need that burn damage since her damage is nerfed so heavily. And she also really needs either a reload or ammo because you have such little ammo. Not to mention, her ammo upgrade no longer gives 10 bullets, it only gives 5. So at most, you can only have 35. That is not very good. So she's kind of been heavily nerfed compared to regular Sunflower, but still a little bit easier. I don't think that really makes up for the damage reduction, but still a very solid Sunflower. So I think she sits B tier. B+. So Power Flower. Oh, now I don't know where I want to put her. I'm going to put Power Flower in B+, I think, for now. So as you can guess from the name, Power Flower gets an electric gimmick, dealing extra arc damage so she can have some group control. Unfortunately, that doesn't work too well with the Sunflower. It's just not really needed because Sunflower really only does single target scenarios anyway. Comparing her to regular Sunflower, her primary is definitely a lot worse, going down to about 10, and at lowest going to, I think, 6 or 7. Pretty much a similar case to Fireflower, and also she does get a damage upgrade, but I don't think that really makes up for it. Her damage drop off is still really bad. I think she has the same ammo. Not to mention, these two sunflowers, I kind of forgot to mention this. Fireflower and Powerflower are some of the most obvious sunflowers in this game. You get spotted incredibly easily. Both of these are glowing quite a bit, and I think that is a big hindrance, because Fireflower, you can get spotted really easily since you're just this bright orange, and then Powerflower has a glow that constantly follows her and also lights up the floor, and I think that does bump them down. You really don't want to get seen as a sunflower, because, you know, you want to sit in the back, deal some damage, and heal people, and this is just not helping. I think that's just going to stick Powerflower in B. She's just will be plus, because she is, at the end of the day, she is a sunflower, about the same ammo, just nerf damage, really. So she still is perfectly capable of getting kills. I think people may dog on her a little bit too much, and I think she goes B plus. Just a little bit worse than regular sunflower, solid, still a healer, does pretty good at it, and B plus. Shadowflower, I think she is going to go in A tier. Comparing her to regular sunflower, these are pretty much the exact same characters, except Shadowflower has a little bit faster fire rate for a little bit less bullet speed, but it's really not that noticeable. Compared to most sunflowers, her bullets are actually a dark color, so they're not as easy to notice. Deal pretty much the same damage. Since these are pretty much the same character, their ease of use is the exact same. Not too dependent on upgrades, but they help. I think she's just slightly better than regular sunflower, because a 5-star fire rate is always better, and it really isn't too noticeable with the bullet speed difference, so I think she's going to go A tier. Very solid. Not too much else to say. Also, one of the most amazing designed sunflowers. She just could have been a bit more unique, honestly. I think they should probably do something different with her if they ever update this game, but solid character, A tier. Mystic Flower, I'm going to put her in A+. I'm going to try and repeat this as best I can from my last video, but I think compared to these other sunflowers, I wouldn't say she's a much more amazing sunflower, but her DPS is some of the highest in the class. She has some of the highest kill times because she is a charge character. Her fully charged shot up close will deal about 60, 70 something damage, I believe. I think it's in the 70s. But the damage drop off on it is fairly bad, going down to about 50 something. So a pretty heavy drop. Still doesn't make it bad though. Dealing a nuke 50 something damage at range, I think 54, is not bad. AoE on it is also really big. And uncharged shots are also pretty damn good too. Being able to spam 16 damage, you can easily clean up any kills that you end up missing. But unfortunately, I think this charging playstyle is a bit contradictory to a sunflower, because you do want to be healing and you're kind of just spending time charging instead of actually doing your role. But you can't just do that in between all your charge attacks. I don't think it hinders her too much, but it just hinders her a little because you're not really prioritizing your team like you're supposed to. But I can't really ignore the DPS. Absolutely solid sunflower. I think she's really damn good. Unfortunately, her ease of use isn't as good because she's a charge character. You're a lot more dependent on hitting that first charge shot. If you miss, you might die. But other than that, she's very solid. She does a lot of damage. Unfortunately, she is very bright. So her appearance is incredibly obvious. You can spot her very easily. Compared to her other variants, I think you're more likely to get sniped down by a deadbeard a lot more with her. So I think she's solid A+. Very good. I don't think I can ignore the DPS, and the better time to kill does make her a little bit better than these two, so solid character. So Metal Petal. I'd say she's barely A-. She's very close to being A. If I feel like changing it, I will. So looking at her primary, it is a little bit weaker than a regular sunflower, going from 12 with the damage upgrade to 11. Unfortunately, she does have bad damage drop off, going down to about 7, I think, at range, and then 6 to the body, so that's not very good. She is one of the armored variants that has extra HP in trade-off for some speed. But the thing is, it's not just any amount of HP. She gains an absolutely monstrous amount of HP, being 50, so she is at 160 and then 170 with the health upgrade. She has ultimate survivability. When I play her, I always find myself in situations where I would have been dead if I was playing regular sunflower, just because she has so much health. This does dramatically help you stay on field and prioritize your teammates over your damage, and not being able to deal damage at range is a bit of a hindrance. So I think this is honestly a very solid trade-off. For that much HP, it is definitely worth it. I'd probably keep her, honestly, since she does the same damage up close, or about the same damage, just a little bit worse up close, you could argue A. I would not disagree with you. She's an absolutely phenomenal sunflower, and she definitely prioritizes her role over your DPS. So she's very solid. I think this is a very underrated sunflower. People need to not dog on her too much, even though she's a little bit slower. Still pretty good damage. Absolutely monstrous amount of HP. Very good. I think this complements her playstyle very well. So A-. Sunfarrow. I'm just going to put her in A. For her gimmick, she is a burst character that she does about 16 damage to a headshot up close, which is really high, and goes to 13 at body, and then only drops to 13 to a head and 11 at range. So still solid. I think she does fall off at range because Sunflower just shoots faster and deals 10 damage at a constant stream. Sunflower ultimately does more, but at the same time, between mid to close range, they're pretty much the same. Still deals solid damage. Not much to say about her, except Sunfarrow is very beautifully designed. She's one of the best looking sunflowers, I gotta say. But she's just a side grade. Just pretty decent damage. Just looks a lot cooler, really. So, solid A tier. Alien Flower. I think she's gonna go B. There's really nothing in B-. I need to probably adjust these tiers a bit. So she's in B tier because many of you may know by now, but her DPS is pretty much the lowest in the class, having a semi-auto, I think around 15 ammo primary. I strangely forgot to mention this, but it is 18 up close to the head and 15 to the body, and far range it is 14 to the head and 12, I think. She does create spore clouds that deal additional 4 damage, which honestly is really good in something like Garden Ops, but in multiplayer, this is pretty poo. Pretty much the best you're going to get from Alien Flower is targeting groups of people so you can stack a ton of cloud damage, and yeah, that's alright, but at the same time, so many other sunflowers can just do better. If you get caught in a 1v1, high chances are you're probably just going to get run over. She doesn't have that much ammo, her fire rate's really low, her damage just isn't that good. Not that she's bad, she can still perform well, but I just don't think it really does. No. Solid B character, but she's just, yeah. So we have Vampire Flower. I think I'm either going to put her in B+ or B. So like Alien Flower, she has some of the worst DPS in her class. I explained this poorly, but she does 10 damage up close, but the thing is her damage drop-off happens incredibly quick and drops down to about 6 to the body and 7 to the head. On top of this, she also has extremely lowered ammo, only being 30 instead of 50. On top of this, she doesn't get a damage upgrade. For her gimmick, since she's a vampire, she deals lifesteal damage, and it isn't really that good either. Because she has such a low amount of HP, being only 85, used to be 75, which is the same as an imp, but all sunflowers got a 10 HP buff, I think around 2016. I mean, that does slightly help her, but at most she only has 95 health. So she's pretty much just going to drop to any damage that she takes. So speaking of that garbage HP, she really depends on upgrades because she seriously needs a health upgrade. And you have to level her up fully just to get it. So this is pretty much just Sunflower on hard mode. I mean, you look good doing it, I guess, because she's beautifully designed, but you could argue B+ if you want. I just think her damage trade-off is not really good, and especially the HP trade-off. I mean, what the hell? So I think she goes B tier. Not a bad character, and she can definitely help the team, but I think she's B tier. Moving on, we were going to be looking at Stuffy Flower, and don't get mad at me. I'm going to put her A-, and I'll explain why. So looking at her primary up close, it's pretty much the same as any other regular sunflower, except she has 10 less bullets, so going from 50 to 40, and deals 12 damage up close, but drops down to 8 at range at a headshot and 7 body. Some people try to say that her gimmick of dropping extra sun when killing enemies is the saving grace of this character, like that just makes her so much better, and her support's like up here. No, it's the HP half the time isn't even picked up because you kill enemies in spaces that you can't get to, and on top of that, the HP isn't really that significant anyway. I think it's about 15 HP that you gain back, so it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, it's helpful, I guess, but not the most game-changing thing in the world, so I think she's just going to sit A-. So moving on, we will be going to the cacti now. Regular cactus is going to go A+. So with Cactus, she deals absolutely massive headshot damage, being 30 and 33 with the damage upgrade, pretty much the same as Agent P, but she can do it at all ranges. I don't remember if her critical damage has a damage drop off. If she does, it's really far range. Other than that, her only damage drop-off that she has is on her minimum damage, or body shot damage, going from 27 to 25. She has 12 bullets in the mag, which can be upgraded with an ammo upgrade, or if just a reload upgrade. Also solid HP being 125. I think her abilities also complement her playstyle very well, being very defensive. When you're attacking though, they aren't great, because you are wanting to push, I'd say on turf or something, so that isn't really too helpful. The potato mines don't really help unless you're being pushed by something like a super brains, or a scientist maybe. I mean, defensively, they're actually really good. The garlic is kind of a mid ability. Sometimes it can be very good. I demonstrated that in my power cactus video. But the reason I would say it's mid is because you don't always need it and you only use it occasionally. Usually you just want to use this when you're low and you don't feel like peeking in case you die, so you just throw out the garlic instead. That's really the only time you end up using it. The corn airstrike is also really bad. And her last ability is the walnut, which is actually pretty damn good. The regular walnut isn't really that good. The wall, that's not that good of an ability. It just ends up getting in the way. But the Iron Maiden is absolutely solid, has a ton of HP, and can shut down so many insta-kills. A lot of Brainz players like to go after cacti because they're not paying attention to what's around them. And with how big the AoE is on Brainz punch, it ends up hitting the walnut instead of you. So you can actually shut down a Brainz pretty well. It can block all different types of insta-kills, and it's a very, very, very solid ability. It also has a lot of HP. So very solid. I think that's very good. I think that bumps her up quite a bit. Abilities complement her well. I wouldn't say great, but well. Very, very, very high damage. Solid at all ranges. Very good. I think she sits in A+. So Fire Cactus. I think she is kind of a... Oh, I grabbed Ice Cactus. Fire Cactus is just kind of a downgrade. I'd say she's A-. She is a fire variant, meaning that she deals fire damage at the trade-off of damage to her primary, but the thing is, it is kind of a significant drop, giving her a very big damage drop-off from a headshot at 27 up close, all the way down to 21, I believe, at range. So up close, she isn't as efficient as regular Cactus, because fire damage deals damage over time, and if you're fighting someone up close, you need to deal as much damage as possible to get them away from you. And Fire Cactus is just not good in that department, so she actually ends up being a little bit better at range, often managing to kill people that end up hiding behind walls when regular Cactus probably couldn't. So I think that bumps her down a bit. She's still just as easy to use as regular Cactus. The primary is pretty much the same, just a bit weaker. She's more dependent on upgrades because she really does need that fire damage upgrade, but that's really about it. So last thing I want to mention is her appearance. This is the most obvious Cactus in the entire game. She's so unbelievably bright. And with Cactus, you want to sit in the back and not be seen at all. You're supposed to be this camouflage sniper. Well, not specifically camouflage, that's camo Cactus, but just sit in the back and not be noticed. And this is just asking for you to get bullied by a deadbeard. She is so unbelievably obvious that it's just a huge hindrance. I think this bumps her down quite a bit. So long story short, she deals less damage up close and mid-range, but can potentially deal higher damage if a opponent goes around a corner or something and kill them with burn damage, and that's pretty much the only advantage. She's usually just a damage nerf. She's just got a bit too many trade-offs for buffs, so I think she's solid A-. Ice Cactus. This is the most butt crack Cactus in the game. I might put her in B-. So with Ice Cactus, as the name might suggest, she is the ice variant, which deals freeze to zombies. Just long story short, serious trade-offs for a gimmick that really doesn't help. Ice doesn't work well with Ice Cactus because she really needs the upgrade. And also with Cactus, since you're at far range, you want to be doing super high damage to kill the enemy as quickly as possible, but with Ice Cactus, I guess they thought you needed to lower the damage so you can actually use the freeze. But the thing is, you don't want to shoot that many bullets at an opponent anyway, because if there's a sniper shooting you, you're going to move out of the way. On top of her low damage, it also gives your opponent plenty of time to move out of the way, so she's just really impractical. Before I get ahead of myself, her primary is extremely low damage compared to regular Cactus, dealing 24 damage up close and going all the way down to, I believe, 18 to a headshot at range, and even lower without hitting a headshot, which is mind-blowingly weak. That's just kind of it, though. There's really not much to say about her. She's pretty much the same as regular Cactus, but just slows people down because you really never get the freeze. So she's just really bad. You could argue for her to be in B, which I guess I wouldn't disagree, but either one of these, she sits around here. Her damage is just actually abysmal. The fact that she's not even in the 25 damage range means that you have to hit 125 HP enemies 6 times and even more at range. So that's really bad. Really, really bad. That's just straight up bad. She takes so many more bullets to kill zombies, and that's not good. So B-. Power Cactus. Just made a video on her. I think I'm gonna put her... Now that these are more specific, I'm not sure what to put her. I guess I'll just put her A+. So with Power Cactus, without the damage upgrade, she deals a bit less damage at 27 and goes down to about 21 at range, I believe. But then with the damage upgrade, her maximum damage actually goes up to 30. At long range, it goes up to 23 as well, which isn't bad. Unfortunately, she is out of the 25 damage range, but assuming your opponent has ship damage, you still can pick them off fairly quickly. So she deals pretty good damage. Being in that 30 damage range still makes her just as lethal up close as regular Cactus. On top of that, she has a faster fire rate. And with that faster fire rate, the bloom really isn't that bad. They're still fairly accurate. So you can laser people, if not a little bit faster than regular Cactus, so she becomes a lot better in close quarters, maybe a little bit better at mid-range. I think they're about the same at mid-range, and then she tends to fall off at range because of her damage drop-off. I think same ammo as well, same reload, same ease of use, really. Also, the arcing damage tends to work better with a Cactus because since they're in the back, you can scout out which people are in groups and actually take advantage of the electric arcing effect, so it's honestly not too bad on her. It's just a little bonus that helps you deal with extra people sometimes. Of course, the electric gimmick isn't exactly great, but with her extra buffs, it honestly makes her pretty good. I'd say she's a very, very solid Cactus, and being able to shred people up close is very valuable. So I think I'm going to put her A+. You could argue A if you want, but I think she goes here. All right, so moving on. Future Cactus is pretty obvious. Future Cactus is an easy S. So to start off, this is a charged variant of Cactus, where her primary will deal a whopping 96 critical damage with the damage upgrade hit, which is busted. This is easily the strongest charged character in the game, no doubt. On top of this, her uncharged shots deal about 18, I think. And it's a really fast fire rate, about as fast as Future Cactus, so to defend yourself up close, they actually deal pretty good damage. Okay, so it goes to from 17 without the damage upgrade to 20 with. Charging mainly works well with Cactus because you don't really need many of the negatives, like not being able to jump or taking extra ammo isn't too big a deal because you're not usually going to be in close quarters anyway. On top of this, her fully charged shot has a massive AoE that deals 30 damage in case you miss. I think she's got around 20 bullets as well, so solid magazine size. I think her reload is fairly normal. Her charge attack also has a pretty decent hitbox, so fairly easy to use. And lastly, her appearance, it's alright. It's a bit more obvious than regular Cactus, and especially because the fully charged shot has such a massive glow and effect, so it's a bit easier to get spotted at range. But still absolutely phenomenal damage. Usually the people who see you are getting deleted anyway because you just deal so much damage. So absolutely phenomenal character, S. Okay, and one thing I do want to mention before I move on is that one thing with Future Cactus is the hit registry screws her up massively. I know it's not a good thing to consider because that's not actually part of their kit, but this game doesn't get updated, so it essentially is. I think hit registry is mainly what stops her from being SS broken because the fact that there are just some times when you deal 0 damage. So I think she's going to sit here in S. So moving on, we are looking at Camo Cactus. I'm going to put her A. When we look at her primary, she is the slow, really heavy hitting sniper. She deals double damage when she hits a headshot, so it goes up from 30 to 60, which is really high. Unfortunately, 60 sits in an awkward damage range where you have to hit a 125 HP enemy 3 times just to kill them. But with her damage upgrade, she goes to 66 damage, meaning that she can actually 2-shot 125 HP zombies. Being able to 2-shot majority of zombies in this game is a phenomenal bonus, so I think that is mainly what bumps her up so far. But that's kind of as far as the pros really go with her. She has a lot of negatives, and one obvious thing is that she's not nearly as consistent as other cacti because she shoots very slowly, and the fact that you barely shoot any bullets means that your bullets are more valuable. If you miss a bullet, you might die. You really do have to have good aim with her. She also doesn't have too much ammo, being around 8. And hit registry also seems to screw over Camo Cactus the hardest out of any cactus in the class, because it feels like about half of the time I'm being completely serious. About half the time, my shots just don't do any damage. I demonstrated that pretty well in my camo cactus video, and she definitely does suffer with that, so I think that bumps her down. But I'd say one of the main pros with her is that she puts the camo in cactus, because holy hell does she blend in really well. Her whole color palette being a very blended in, mundane green kind of color is absolutely phenomenal. I'd say on every map besides Great White North, she blends in so unbelievably well that it is insane. You can almost never see her before it's too late, and that is a huge pro. This is what Camo Ranger really wants to be. So with that out of the way, I think she is in A tier. Pretty solid cactus. I'd say hit registry just makes her really inconsistent, but ignoring that, her damage is really solid, so A tier. So moving on, we have Bandit Cactus. I think I'm going to put her in B+, or maybe B. Either one of these two. So looking at her primary, she no longer has a semi-auto long-range sniper kind of primary. It is a full auto, mainly up close, dealing I think 9 to 10 damage and maybe 20 rounds. Unfortunately, this is a very contradictory playstyle to what a cactus is supposed to be. A full auto close range primary does not synergize well at all with her abilities, and this is just a lower damage cactus. I mean, you're better off playing any other ones if you just want to get more kills. So, I mean, not that she's bad, because she does have really good accuracy and can laser some people, but I forgot to mention this, but on the plus side, she actually, I believe, doesn't have any damage drop off. On the downside, the more you shoot, the bigger the bloom gets, so the less accuracy you have. You really do have to have some restraint with going full auto at far range. You might need to shoot a few bullets, wait a second, and then shoot a few more bullets, if you get what I mean. She's definitely not deserving of B, because you can laser people very quickly and do a lot of damage. One thing with her, though, is that the damage upgrade really doesn't matter that much, because it goes up from 10 to 11, but the minimum damage, I think, still stays at 9. And since she's already at 10 damage, she's not on that awkward damage range of 9 damage, so it's not too helpful, but, you know, any damage is always nice. I don't really think she's deserving of B. I think she really does need to go in B+. She's also a bit more obvious in a regular cactus with all the different cosmetics on, so that bumps her down a bit as well. So yeah, not awful, but just there are way better options, and she doesn't perform as well as others. So I'm gonna say she's B tier. So starting off with the next cactus, we have Jade Cactus. I think I'm gonna put her B+. So starting with her primary, I think she has about the same ammo as regular cactus, I think around 12, but her damage is just generally weaker, with an up-close headshot going up to 27 to a headshot and 22 at range. That is significantly weaker than regular cactus, so I think that bumps her down quite a bit. I'm pretty sure reload is also the same. But moving on to her gimmick, this is completely unnecessary, to put it short. Giving her extra HP isn't really necessary because you don't get in many confrontations as Cactus anyway. And also, the lowered speed just isn't helpful because sometimes you do need to move around to get at certain vantage points. But one thing that is helpful is the extra effect she has for bullets that she misses. Any bullets that are left on the ground will explode about 1 to 2 seconds after they land, dealing extra AoE damage of 15. Because of that, I'd say she's a pretty beginner-friendly cactus. Definitely a bit easier to use compared to the other ones, but her DPS is really just what lets her down, along with an unnecessary gimmick. You could argue for A- if you want, but she just can't make up for her damage loss compared to Fire Cactus, so I think that bumps her down quite a bit. But another bonus with her is that with her appearance, she actually blends in really well. Being a dark green, like a dark flat green, is pretty good. Maybe not as good as Camo Cactus, but very solid. I'd say she's probably the second hardest one to see. So pretty solid character. I think she's B+. So, moving on to the next cactus, we have Zen Cactus. I think I want to put her in A. I somehow managed to screw up yet another character, so here I am having to edit more BS. But long story short, our primary is 5 bullets, starting at 20 damage, and each bullet after that goes up by 10. So 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Also, each bullet, the stronger they are, will have a bigger AoE, and the AoE will also deal bigger damage. Since she has a lot less bullets, that means she isn't as easy to use. You really have to make your shots count. If you miss, you're more likely to die here as much as almost as bad as camo cactus. Speaking of her ammo, she really does need that reload upgrade. Only having 5 bullets means that you will be really reloading. I think that bumps her down quite a bit, but at the same time, she's more of a riskier and reward-ish character, so the better you are, the more you can get out of her. Unfortunately, she is one of the most obvious cacti in the game, being similar to fire cactus in that she is a very bright color, that being very bright pink, and also having really bright bullets that also leave a big trail so they know exactly where you're shooting from. To me, that bumps her down quite a bit because you're more likely to get bullied by a deadbeard. Very solid cactus. If you want to argue A+, go for it. I wouldn't complain. I just don't feel like fixing it. So yeah, now you know. Moving on, we have petrified cactus. I'm going to put her also in B+. Some people think, oh, she's crazy because she's self-detonation, she's amazing, put her up here. No. The reason she's going to sit down here in B+ is because with self-detonation, that generally means that you want to stick close to mid-range unless you're Captain Cannon and you have a really fast bullet speed, which Petrified Cactus definitely does not. This is the slowest projectile speed in the entire game, but looking at this as objectively as I can, it is still very good. She gets additional HP as well, I think of being around 150, and the damage of these self-detonation bullets is incredibly high, being around 43 or 45, somewhere between there. I honestly don't remember. I don't use it that much. But as good as that sounds, that is really contradictory for a cactus because you want to stay far range and does not synergize well with the abilities. So she's just, her ease of use with that absolutely butt crack bullet speed definitely knocks her down a lot. She's not as easy to use as any other regular self-detonation character. I think she has a regular reload. Her ammo isn't too great, and she's B+. So, Torchwood. I feel like this is pretty obvious, but I think he's going to go B-. To start off, his primary is pretty bad, having a 50% offset on all bullets, meaning that he barely works at range. It is fairly decent damage though, being about 7, and then I think it drops off quite a bit to about 3 or 4 at far range. So not too terrible. It's about the same damage as an all-star. They pretty much have the same primaries. But a bonus with Torchwood is that he's supposed to be the bulkiest plant in the game, having about 275 HP, going up to 285 with a health upgrade. But at the end of the day, that health doesn't matter. Your hitbox is the biggest out of any plant. You are just a prime target for ZPGs. Ice characters also annihilate Torchwood, and his abilities are alright. The leaf shield's pretty bad. The fire breath is okay, but since your movement gets so slow when you're using it, if an enemy's high enough HP, they can just walk out of it before dying. And what really makes Torchwood at his best potential is definitely Smoldering Madness for sure. This increases your fire rate a lot, also gives him access to fire damage, so inside of this mode, he's actually really damn good. I don't even think the Leaf Shield covers him completely, because I'm pretty sure if you shoot the very top of his head, you still deal normal damage. I may be wrong on that though, feel free to correct me. You pretty much get bullied if you play Torchwood. There's just not many pros. And the fact that this character takes so much to get, with the option to pay for him instead, and he's this bad, is unbelievable. I think he sits here. Alright, congratulations on making it to the end. I mean, thank you, because I have put a lot of effort into this. This is the fully updated tier list. I'm making this after I edit the whole video, so all of these characters are in proper placements, like Yeti Chomper. But one thing I do have some concerns with is Rock P being in B. You could put him in B+. Because he still does, what, 32 damage up close, which is solid, but I don't know, being a crusty piece of shit will only get you so far. Hopefully this was as in-depth, or if not more than most, and hopefully you agree with them. If you don't, feel free to leave comments below. Just don't be a dickhead about it, because let's try and have a regular conversation or debate, please. But that'll be it. Don't know when the All-Star vid's gonna come out. Very sorry for that being delayed over this, because I know many of you who probably watched the old one don't want to watch this one because you spent a long time watching the old one. So sorry, but I felt like I needed to do this because my old one was just that bad. It'll come out eventually. If I'm honest, I'm probably gonna record that video later after I finish editing this, so it'll be out eventually. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this, and that'll be it. So thank you for watching.